Next town
She ran away from her school?
She ran away from the job she was working at.
Oh, the job.
She was working at in Silver Plume, place
Yeah.
called Silver Plume, at a restaurant where they do room and board. Paid her very little money, but she all the tips she got to keep. She had them hidden, or else they take the tips. And she had a big old jar full of silver dollars, both $80 like that, worth a lot of money now, more than dollars. But anyway, we took those, so we had a little bit of money. And the first thing we did after I got out,
How old were you when you got out?
I was 18, I was 17.
Yeah.
I was going to be 18. I was going to be 18 at October, so I was almost 18 in July. And she was 15.
Yeah.
So my dad was out, and her mom had given them up from a long time back. She never even tried to get the kids. They pretty much basically grew up in that nursing home, in that children's home. It's a bad place to be.
The children's home was the Indian boarding school?
That was bad. It was bad. Run by Catholics, and had a lot of abuse. A lot of abuse went on in there. So it was just really bad. But anyway, so we got together, and I figured if I didn't want to go back, and she didn't want to go back, so we figured, well, let's get married real quick. So my dad stood up for me because he had to be 18.
Yeah.
And she had to be 16. So my mom, because they didn't know, my mom used her maiden name. And my mom stood up for her, my dad stood up for me, so we got married. And at that time, the parole officer they were Mr. changing parole officer here in the town. And I didn't have nobody to report to, so when the parole officer came up and asked me, I told him I was married, he said, well, I'm going to violate you. You can't, that's against the law. You can't get married without permission. I said, well, you guys run around, so he threw me in jail.
He threw you in jail?
Yeah.
For getting married?
Yeah, threw me back in jail. He said, I'm going to violate your parole. And I said, oh man, I got to go back to that institution. Probably never get out alive. So anyway, waited about a week, and then came back and he says, well, I'm going to cut you some slack. He says, you get any kind of trouble, anything that happens with you and you don't report it to me, I'm going to violate you. I'm telling you that right now.
Why didn't you just leave the state, Elder?
I couldn't.
You could not leave the state? How would they know if you left the
You
state?
got to report twice a week.
Well, if you went far away, then...
And they got a warrant on you, and then you're going straight to jail again.
Okay.
Worse.
All right.
So anyway, I did leave the state later on, just to answer that question. But anyway, so we got married, and then my dad and my mom having a lot of problems, in the marriage, and all this kind of really bad stuff. So he decided he was going to leave, and he left and pretty much took off. And
Were you the youngest of the children?
I was the oldest.
You were the oldest.
So he left us in a lurch.
So there were 8 other brothers and sisters?
7.
7?
2 from my dad's side and 7 from my mom's side.
I see.
So anyway, after he left, things really got hard in Colorado. That's when that's when all the other stuff started. But we had the GPS, it's called GPS, CPS, I guess it is.
The Child Protective Services?
Yeah. They came up and said told my mom they were going to take the kids, but so me and my wife, because we've been married probably about 6 months there, we didn't have any kids yet, and we both had work. We've been working steady. I was working in a furniture factory. So she called us up and she says, hey, they want to take the kids. And I said, man, you can take the kids. So we went before the judge, my wife and myself, and we just barely, I think I think she just turned 17 and I was almost 19. I can't remember, maybe I was almost 20 then. No, I was 19, she would have been 16. So I just turned 16 then. Anyway, we went before the judge and told him, I said, hey, we want to take the kids. And he said, well, I don't know about that. And I said, well, you're going to separate them, you don't need to. So we talked to him for a little while, and he gave us a couple of counselors to talk to. We talked to them. They said, well, but the judge said he'll give you a 30-day trial. He's going to let him stay with you for 30 days. He said, but what he wants to see an improvement in their grades, improvement in their, appearance and all the. He said he wants to see them like you're making progress. So we all got together and had a little conference with the kids and say, hey, this is what it is. We got to do this. If we don't do it, you guys are gonna go. So everybody just buckled up and went back to see the judge, and he looked at the kids and asked them about their school. Let me see your report cards. Let me see how you're doing in school. And they were all doing good. So he said, okay, I'm going to do this. He said, I'm not going to give you full custody right now, but I'm going to give you 6 months. And he said, if you continue for 6 months, he said, you can have the kids, permanent. So we continued for another 6 months and managed and actually gave us legal guardianship of all my brothers and sisters.
And your mother couldn't take care of them?
My mother had to go to work, trying to support them. She was working at a laundry, and there was no way. It was just no way to make things end.
How old was the youngest child?
My sister Janie was probably about 5. My sister Pat was 9. Millie was 12. No, Millie was probably 14, I think. I don't know, it was me, Gilda, Millie, Henry, Art, Pat, Jamie. I think that's all of them.
So you and your wife were children yourself, and you were taking care of 5 children?
Yeah, we had to.
Otherwise, they would have been taken to boarding school?
Yeah, and they would have had to go through the same. And my wife already been through that, so she said, no way am I going to let that happen. So we both got, we already had 2 little side jobs. I got a permanent job, then I got a nighttime job, and she got a permanent job, and she got a nighttime job.
Wow.
And the girls took care of each other at night because they were old enough to babysit each other. But we made it happen, and the good thing about was, now I got all of them graduated from college.
Wow.
All of them are self-sufficient,
That's amazing.
And the really good part about it is every now and then they send me money without custody.
You did that. You and your wife, you did that. That's amazing.
But it's cool, because like I said, all of them, if I mention I'm coming to Colorado, I get airline tickets real quick. I get money. I got no expenses. So if I go to Arizona, same thing. If I go to Hawaii, same thing. If I go to Japan, same thing.
Ooh, one of them went to Japan and Hawaii?
Yeah, and another one's in China.
Wow.
They all graduated. One is in China. He's been there a long time. He went there right after graduation. And he was in the sorority. They had a bunch of Chinese guys. And they graduated, and they said, come with us to China, Joy. So he went, and he ain't coming back. He's got his own business up there. Buys his mom a new car every year.
Nice.
Sends for her, and so she's been all over. But it worked out pretty cool, and then during the Vietnam War, my brother he had been drafted, and I was at home. We had already bought a little house.
Still in Colorado?
Yeah, this was in 1964.
So you were
1964.
in your 20s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 24.
Yeah.
And this guy called me up. He says, your brother's girlfriend wants to talk to you. So I got her on the phone and said, you better come. They're jumping Henry over here, your brother. All these guys are surrounding him. And, so I said, oh man, I don't want to go through all this again. So, and he was leaving the next day to Nam. He'd already been, he'd been inducted. They were out just partying, and people, just rowdy folks, just started a hassle. Anyway, when I got there, about 5 minutes after she had called me, I got there, and I seen something just kind of shining in the sun, because it was dusk already, and the sun was already going down pretty good. I seen it, and I said, what the? And I didn't, all of a sudden, that caught me from here to here with a straight razor.